Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Love Yourself to Health podcast. My name is Alyssa, and I'll be here each week teaching you how to build a body that you genuinely love. As women, we have been taught so much misinformation about what our bodies should look like, how we should eat, and how we should work out. And I'm here to dispel all the myths and to teach you how to feel better, eat more without gaining weight, and to build a toned, lean, feminine physique, all without dieting, endless hours of cardio, or beating yourself up for getting off track. Here, we're all about treating our bodies with love and respect, and of course, having fun along the way. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. So today we have a special episode for you guys, and actually we will be for the rest of this week. So I know we had been talking about the Results Guaranteed Bootcamp, and you guys got to listen in to the bonus trainings, and we have since decided to actually upload the whole darn thing. So all of this week, all of the trainings from the bootcamp are going to be uploaded here onto the podcast as well. Now, if you do want to participate even more, if you want to get access to the worksheets, to the slideshow, to, some feedback from your coaches, myself, Alyssa, and Ariya, and if you want to be entered to win any of the prizes, then you will need to sign up for the bootcamp, and the link will be in the description below. You'll get a welcome email, you'll get an invitation to the Facebook group, and you'll be getting the emails every day that has links to all of the stuff you need to participate even more in the bootcamp. So for now, this is just the trainings for you, and if you want more, and if you want to be entered to win the prizes, then just click the link below and you can get in. So the prizes, I'll just quickly let you in on what those are. If you show up every day to the bootcamp, you will get a bonus module from each of the courses that we have in Transformation Academy. So you'll get one from the nutrition course, which is all about getting in tune with your hunger signals. You'll get one from the mindset course, which is how to set goals. And then you'll get one from the program design course, which is all about how to get the most out of your workouts. So you get that just for showing up every day to the bootcamp and posting your homework and filling in the worksheet and all of that good stuff. And we will be drawing that next Friday, so I believe the 25th of March. And then if you show up every day, you get that automatically. Plus, you'll be entered to win the grand prize, which is a coaching call with myself, Alyssa, a coaching call with Ariya, 2 weeks in Transformation Academy, and also access to Ariya's bonus mini mindset course. So that is what is going on in this bootcamp. You still have time to get in and take advantage of everything. But for now, have a listen to the first day's training, and I hope you enjoy.
So today we're basically going to be going over what values, beliefs, and goals are. So just a kind of a question to consider. Do you want to live a healthy, vibrant life in which your actions align with your goals? And I know that sounds like a pretty heavy statement. So just take a moment and really reflect on your current situation, okay? Like where you're at in life and what you're pursuing, okay? Do you feel directionless? Do you feel stuck? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like you're just living an ordinary or mediocre life right now? Okay, so just really think about that, reflect on that. And do you think that maybe your core values are not aligned with your goals? And maybe that's where that resistance is coming up for you to really take inspired action towards your goals. So do you want to feel a sense of purpose, direction, or clarity? Do you want to feel more like you're using your time and your energy to actually pursue your goals? Do you want to feel driven to reach your goals? Well, if you really resonate with those last statements, it's really important for you to understand your values, okay? So basically what values are is that they just represent your highest priority, okay? And they really guide your behavior and give your behavior a sense of purpose and meaning. And basically your values are the foundation of your actions, decisions, and behaviors. And how you find your values is really looking inward and asking yourself, what drives you? What inspires you? You can really use your core values to act as like a compass to guide you to make the right decisions that really align with your goals. Okay. And when you're thinking about your values, really consider like, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? Like, what do you want people to think about when they like speak about you? Do they say Ariya is a very like kind, compassionate, she really nurtures her relationships? Like, do you want someone to speak about you like that? Or the alternative doesn't really matter, but like really getting clear on those values and what they mean to you is so important. So if we go into the next slide, we can actually kind of get a look at what values actually are and how they really show up in your day-to-day life. So like, for instance, family. Okay. So this is a really easy example to kind of look at. Is your core value family? Like, do you really prioritize time spent with family? Well, then look at other areas of your life. Are they really supporting that as a value of yours? Are you working 80 hours a week? Are you not spending a lot of time at home with your family and friends? Are you spending more time on TV and social media than what you could be spending with your family and friends? Like, just looking at what your actions are and if they're actually really aligning with what that value is of family. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
You're doing great. You're like very clear on everything that you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've maybe even like some specific examples, like what happens if you like I guess the feeling that comes about when you're not really sticking to your core values. Like I think something that's important to think about, for instance, if one thing that you're trying to work on is your health, and if that's taking away from your other core values, is it even worth, going about it in the way that you're going about it? I think it more so comes back to, the actions that you're taking, not necessarily the goal. So when you're setting goals for yourself, if you're setting a goal for health or whatever, you just want to make sure that the plan you're coming up with to reach that goal doesn't take away from the other values in your life, that it in fact like brings more to them, that they all start working together even more, right? So like include your family in your health goals and have it more as like a thing that they all work together instead of being like resistance between them.
That's why, like, you kind of touched on this, like they really have to like complement each other, like what your core values are, right? Like if your number one priority is health, I'm trying to think of something that would be contradictory. But you're spending, but you purchase a lot of fast food, okay, for whatever reason, because you have this very quick lifestyle that it's hard for you to prioritize health. So you, let's say money is another core value of yours. So now you're spending all your other money, like your money that you would normally just have extra of on like fast food or whatever, right? So I know that doesn't entirely make sense, but they all have to really match together. And if you're not, I don't know if you can explain this a little bit better.
Yeah, like, or even like with the example of health and family, like if you're going about your health in a way where it's, well, you think you're working on your health, but actually you're just working on weight loss. I think that's something that can come into play, where you're just like killing yourself in the gym and just going so hard that your health is actually starting to probably get worse. Or if you're dieting so hard that you have like zero energy to show up for your family, or you're actually not necessarily providing a good example for your kids on like what's a healthy relationship with food. I feel like you really got to think about, is this actually for my health, or is this actually for like, not my ego, but just trying to go about things in a way that doesn't actually align with what health is, and then it also doesn't align with your family values too, right? I don't know.
You just touched on something that I really should have been included in the slides, is like, what is your, I guess it technically is, but getting clear on what your definition of that value is. Right?
Yeah.
Because your definition of family, of health, or whatever the case might be entirely different from someone else's. Yeah. So getting really clear on what that means to you and how that would look like in your life and all of the things. It's a very personal thing. You can't just take someone else's value and apply it to yourself. It's just not going to work.
Totally. And you want to make sure that, like, for instance, yeah, I think like a health is a really good example because you can say your goal is health, when in fact your goal is probably actually just to lose weight as fast as possible. And you want to think about, is that actually aligning with what you want for
Mm-hmm.
your own health? Like, did those actually correlate, or are you
Mm-hmm.
actually like making your health worse in the long run by trying to lose weight so quickly?
Yeah, it's like a lot of time when like summer comes around and whatever, you have a month until it's like bikini season. So you diet so quickly, so strictly, like you're doing 1,200 calories a day in order to reach your goal, which is to be smaller or lighter or whatever, lose weight. But the means of you doing that is, do those actions align with your value of health by
Mm-hmm.
you only consuming 1,200 calories a day? Probably not,
Yeah.
right? So actually like looking at that and like not at a surface level, but actually how it shows up in your life.
Mm-hmm. And then I know we're going to get to why later in these slides
Mm-hmm.
here, but I think that really ties in to the why as well. Like sometimes you need to figure out what your why is to make sure it's actually making sense for your values. Like if you think about that goal of losing a certain amount of weight and you find, your true why for that, that's really going to come back to your values as well. Whereas if you
Mm-hmm.
don't take the time to figure out like what you truly value there and why it's truly important to you,
Mm-hmm.
you may just have a very, very surface level why and a very surface level value as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I think just making sure we keep those two parts together, which we will be going over. The
Yeah.
deeper you get in this, the easier it's going to be to actually stick to what you want to try to do. And it's just going to feel so much better because when you're
Mm-hmm.
not aligned with your values and your why when it comes to your goals and the actions that you're taking on a day-to-day basis, it's just going to feel so much resistance and so much more challenging to actually do those things day to day because it's very surface level. You don't have a very deep connection to why you're doing it. And a lot of it might be based on something that doesn't actually even matter to you, that you necessarily didn't come up with yourself. Like it may be
Mm-hmm.
like social pressures or, things that have just been ingrained in you so long because it's what the media has told you that you need to look a certain way. And maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
not even something that truly matters to you as an individual. That's just something that's been put on you
Mm-hmm.
by social media and regular media and just like diet culture and all of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's keep going
Yeah.
because I know we could get stuck on this stuff
I
for so
know.
long.
Okay. So when you know your core values, it is so much easier to make big life decisions or even like the small action steps to pursue your goals. It's a lot easier when you know what your core value is. Same with resiliency. You're less likely to give up
Mm,
when you're faced with obstacles, okay? Because your value of whatever it is, health and wellness, is so strong that in the face of any obstacle, you will overcome it. And then the last really big one is motivation. So when you have a core, when you know what your core value is, you have greater determination and self-discipline. And that kind of also ties in with like resiliency. They're kind of one and the same in that kind of sense. But it really actually helps you guarantee things for you more when you know your values, as opposed to just your goals.
mm-hmm. Yeah, these are all such important points when it comes to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh, absolutely.
and you'll really start to understand it when you start
Mm-hmm.
getting more clear on things, even when you just like figure out what your values are and figure out what your why is, you'll feel different when you think about working towards that goal than when you were just using the very surface level values or whys to get there. So I'm excited for you guys to start exploring this for yourself and really see the difference it makes even right off the bat.
So this is very similar to what you guys are going to see on your worksheet today. So it's take note of this and how I'm going over it, and then you can kind of apply those same prompts that I'm giving you right now when you go to do your worksheet later on. So how do we pick our core values? Okay. So first thing, I want you to take a deep breath, like a deep belly breath, like really feel that in your body because this can be a lot. Like if you've never sat down and asked yourself, like, what do I value? What drives me? Like that can be quite intimidating, right? So take a deep breath. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use your experiences, your past experiences, to really reflect on and determine your core values. So reflect on both a memorable experience that was that made you feel really good, and then also reflect on a challenging experience and use that polarity, so the differences in the two experiences, to really guide you what your value is going to be, okay? So when you're reflecting on your experiences, ask yourself what happened. What happened in that setting or that situation? What were you doing? What were you thinking? All the things. Who are you with? Okay, that might be a really good determination of like what your core value might be. What was the outcome? Was it a desirable outcome? Was it an undesirable outcome? And then like, what did you learn from that experience? So like, you don't have to necessarily pick one or two experiences. You can kind of like just reflect on it as a whole, like both positive and negative experiences. And then you're gonna use your emotions, because your feelings about something is a really good indication of, like, if you're feeling icky inside, you probably weren't doing the things that were in alignment with your values. But if you were feeling really empowered and energized by the outcome of that experience, you know that you were in alignment with your values. So that's why it's really important to reflect on previous experiences if you don't know what your values are. So when you're using your emotions, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Do you think your core values were being honored? Were they being dishonored? Why do you even feel like you felt that way to begin with? Like really use these emotions and these thoughts and experiences and what you did to illuminate what your value was.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to come up with a list of all of your core values. So basically, you're going to think of anything that you can possibly think of that is truly important to you and really matters to you, like not just today, but like in your life in general. And in the worksheet, you've got a whole bunch of different examples that you can look through to kind of give you some inspiration and think about, okay, what actually is really important to me. And once you've got that list, again, of as many as you can think of, so like family, health, prosperity, freedom, leaving a legacy, helping other people, whatever it is that's truly important to you, you want these to be very individual to who you are as a person. Like your values very much are deep to who you are as a person, who you see yourself as a person, and how you want to show up to the world, how you want other people to view you, right? So what is most important to you? From that list, you're going to go through and you're going to circle or highlight your top 5. So the 5 that truly, truly, truly mean the most to you. Okay. So basically this whole phase is really bringing it down to the most important. So after you've got your top 5, then you're going to rank them in order of importance. So your number 1, what is absolutely the most important to you, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. From that, you're going to, do your very first one, and you're going to describe it. So if health is your number 1 goal, your number 1 value, you're going to describe what that means to you, because your description of health is going to be completely different from somebody else's, right? Like maybe health to you means that you have the energy in a day to keep up with your kids, right? Or maybe health means to you that you have a good relationship with your body and with food, right? That could be what health means to you. Or health could be that you are living your life in a way where you know that you're going to be able to live longer. You're going to be able to, prevent diseases from happening. And you're just going to live a life in a healthy way so that you can keep living healthy and happy for as long as you possibly can, right? Mm-hmm. So health can mean something different to every person. So you're going to create something that says what this value means to me specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like for the top core values, a really easy way to figure out what your top core value is. Like, what one are you naturally just gravitating towards? Like, what was the first one? What one do you keep returning to? That might be your main core value. And like, keep in mind, like, all these core values, they can change, like, depending on where you are in your life. Like, maybe right now your core value is family because you really want to start a family, you want to get married, all of these things, right? But a couple of years from now, that might not be your top core value. So like, keep in mind, like, it's not like once you decide on this value, you're going to have to stick with it for the rest of your life. Absolutely not. But it just helps you in figuring out what you should be doing right now and if it feels good or doesn't feel good. So like, don't feel like you have to like stick with this forever. This just is a really good starting point for you. Like, and then for the creating a memorable phrase, really use descriptive words that paint a picture of what that value looks like to you. Use words that elicit emotions, because that way you're more likely to remember your core value. And it's easier for you to revisit in that sense, because sometimes you kind of forget what your values, your goals, all the things are. But if it's very memorable to you, that will allow you to I don't know, reflect on yourself, check in on yourself in a moment like that. Like, if you're doing something that isn't in alignment, it's a lot easier to remember that value of yours if it's memorable.
Yeah, totally. And you want to have it written down somewhere. I think it's like all of these, once you've kind of come up with all of your different things, like at the end, make sure that one sentence that you've got, you have it written down somewhere so that you can always see it and reflect on it. I like having it as a background on my phone. So you're literally on it all the time.
And when it's one sentence, it requires you to be very precise, right? Because sometimes it's not very, like, you're not very sure on what it is. You put in a lot of words to kind of beat around the bush. But if you can make it very precise, then you know exactly what that value means to you, right? So literally one sentence. You don't get extra marks for doing 2 sentences. I need 1 sentence. Okay. So do you want to learn how to create goals that are both effortless and achievable? I feel like everyone does. So goals are basically dreams for the future, or a desired outcome that you want to have happen. When we have goals, you feel better when you have something meaningful to work towards, right? So I think a lot of us in this day and age feel like we don't have purpose or meaning. We just work a 9-to-5 job, we come home, rinse and repeat, right? But when you have a goal, you feel a lot more energized and empowered to get up and do the small things. So it's really important to have those goals to kind of feel more that you have that purpose and you have that meaning, because I think a lot of time we lose that in trying to achieve other things. So it's super, super important. And also, goals just guide your behavior. So goals represent the behavior that you need to take now to get the goal later on. And then just some examples of just basic goals. So whether that be that you want to get a new job, or you want to lose weight, get a new house, you want to travel a little bit more. These are all very basic surface level goals that we all start with. So this is a really good starting point for you. Okay. So this is when we're really going to start making those connections for you as to why all these things really matter and how they actually work together very beautifully. So connecting your goals to your values. So if you know what your values are, it's a lot easier to develop those habits to reach your goals. And it's easier to maintain those habits to reach your goals because those habits feel really good. So that's super, super important. Also with challenges, if your values and your goals align, like, success is literally guaranteed for you, because it's just a lot easier. When those obstacles come up, it's like, cool, this is a new chance that I get to learn and develop new skills for the next obstacle that might come up. But you don't get put off by that. It's just a learning opportunity for you. And then purpose, I've kind of touched on this before. You just feel more fulfilled when your goals and values are in alignment. Okay, So this is a very similar exercise as identifying your values as it is with your goals. Same thing, I want you to take a deep breath because this can be quite overwhelming. How many times have we decided that we're going to have a new goal, okay? Fresh start. It doesn't matter what you did before. It doesn't matter what you didn't do before. You're starting new right now. So I want you to dream really, really big and then dream a little bit bigger and then a little bit more. Because these should not be ordinary goals. These should be massive, expansive. These should really drive you to change and evolve as a human. So dream big, okay? And then second, look into the future. Look at your values and consider some of the actions that would be required of you to live your values out. And then look at what are you doing right now? What are you doing right now supporting your goals? Just check in with yourself. And if they're not, if what you're doing right now isn't in alignment with your goals and values, that's okay. Like developing that awareness piece, doing a little audit of where you're at right now is the easiest way to bridge the gap to where you want to go later on. And if you know where you are right now, it's easier to develop those small steps to get where you're going, opposed to trying to make these massive leaps, because that's going to be very, very, very difficult. I don't know if you want to add anything on that. No? Okay.
No, you're doing great. I like all this stuff. This stuff is like so important. And I think a lot of times we just don't realize how much more there is to goals. We often just set goals because it's a goal, it's like so many people have a goal of losing a certain amount of weight or of like eating healthier. But when you just choose a goal because of whatever, just like a very surface level reason, or because other people are doing it, or because you think you should do it, those are just not strong enough reasons to keep going. And if it doesn't align with you as a person and who you are and what matters to you, it's not gonna last. But you can take those same goals, you can still use them, but just going a little bit deeper and figuring out how to make them your goals, right? And when you make them your goals and you have a really big reason behind them and they really make sense to you, and it's just so much easier in those times where you're struggling to come back to that and be like, okay, this is why I'm actually doing it. I'm not just doing it for the sake of the goal, but I have it relates to my values. I have a really strong why for it. That's going to help you keep going so much more than just doing it just because.
And you kind of touched on this a little bit. When you're making a goal, you want to be chasing the feeling that comes out of you achieving that goal and not the results itself. So that you can start feeling that feeling right now instead of waiting for an outcome to produce that feeling for yourself. And that's really empowering. If you choose to just feel like that confidence, like I can't swear, so cool person, like start feeling like that right now, right? Like don't wait for you to lose 10 pounds to have that feeling. Start feeling that right now. And that's why it's so important to reflect back on those feelings like before in the first part of your values, because the feeling that arises when you're successful at something, if you're chasing that feeling, you're going to be way more successful than if you're chasing that 10 pounds difference on the scale. So that's why feelings really do come into play when you're like trying to really guarantee you reaching those goals. You really do have to include the feeling portion of that. So creating a list of your goals, do a massive brain dump. Just do a big old brain dump of all the things that you want to get done, whether they be big, which I prefer them to be big, or small. Just do a big brain dump, because sometimes it's hard for you to think of those big goals when you have those little things just clouding it in your brain for you. So do everything, get everything out on paper, okay? And then next, I want you to determine your top 5 goals. But before you do that, I want you to reflect back on the values that you determined for yourself and make sure that your goals that you're about to figure out are in alignment with those values that you just did. Okay. And then you're going to rank your top five goals in accordance with your values. And then you're going to do the same thing as before, create a memorable phrase so that you can better remember your goal. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think one thing to keep in mind is I feel like you can make whatever goal you have align with your values. But that's just going to come from like the action steps and what you're going to do to reach that goal. So yeah, I think most goals should be able to align with your values as long as you're making sure your steps to get there do. But I mean, obviously, like there's definitely some like, don't choose a goal that's to lose so much weight that you would literally just be unhealthy, right? So yeah, definitely make sure it aligns with your values. But I think most of the time you can find a way to make just the process align with your values.
I think that's a really good highlight of that is it's the behaviors and the process that should align more or less than the actual goal itself, for sure.
There definitely are some goals that will stand out as like, just don't go for it. Like, that's just not, that's just not going to align. But most of the time you'll be able to.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And we will go through that. Like today's got a lot in it. Don't worry, today is the longest day. The rest of the days are going to be shorter, but we're just getting you set off with a really good foundation. And this is the most important stuff too.
So this is the last section. So now we're going to be exploring your why. So do you think having a clear reason why your goals matter to you would help you to reach your goals? Now, this is the most overlooked step in goal setting. So your why, a why statement. Okay, so makes your goals more powerful and achievable when you have a why statement. It nudges you in the right direction. When you have a strong why, it serves as a reminder as to why your goals are so important to you, because sometimes we lose sight of that when we're working towards our goals. We forget why we're even doing it in the first place, because we're so focused on the results that we forgot why we were even here in the first place. And then the last one, this one's super, super important, is it serves as a purpose for your actions. And when you have a strong enough why, which I kind of highlight on the next one, the how will naturally reveal itself. And I know that kind of sounds silly, but if you have a why of, let's say, purchasing a home, you will figure out, do the things necessary. You will contact the people, you will start creating the budget, all of the things. The how will reveal itself when you have a strong enough why. And it truly will, which is kind of simplistic, but that's just kind of how our brain works.
Yeah, the stronger the why is, the more determined you will be to actually make that happen. And I know the biggest results I've ever seen in my life was when I was so determined to make it happen. And I had such a strong reason behind it and belief in myself that I just did whatever I had to do to make it happen. And there were tons of like times where things just did not go as I wanted them to, but I didn't even see those as mistakes, really. I was just like, okay, we just got to figure out how to make it through this.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, having the why is so important.
And your brain, I'll touch on this more later on, but your reticular activating system, and that sounds like a huge word, it's just a region in your brain. It will start looking for things that are in alignment with your goal for you when you have that why. So you'll start seeing all these opportunities, all these people will start coming to you, these things will start working out for you when you have that why. And it's kind of weird how our brain works like that, but whatever we're focusing on expands just naturally, and we'll see more of those things that are in alignment with that.
Yeah, there's like an example of that with like cars. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so like if you bought a new car and, before you thought, I don't know, whatever, you didn't really notice. So let's say you bought like a Nissan Altima or whatever. And before you bought the car, you didn't really notice those cars anywhere. And then after you buy the car, you literally notice those cars everywhere because it's in
Exactly.
the forefront of your brain. Because now you're focused on it and you'll start seeing it everywhere because your brain is more focused on that. So it's the same thing with goals and with your why. When you are thinking about something more often and more frequently, it's at the forefront of your brain. So you'll start seeing other things in your life that are going to relate to that or help you on your way to it.
Exactly. Okay. So why you need to know your why. So like I said before, when you have a strong enough why, the how will reveal itself. You will feel less resistance towards reaching your goals in the face of obstacles or challenges. And then motivation. A strong enough why replaces the need for motivation. I was listening to this one podcast a while ago, and this guy was talking about how he was a mentor for this one individual who was doing sales calls. Okay, they didn't really enjoy doing these sales calls, but they needed to make money to purchase a home. Okay, and this mentor was working with this individual, and the mentor asked, well, why do you need to make all this money to purchase a home? Well, because rent is really expensive and I just want to purchase a home. Okay, well, why though? Well, because I really need that stability. Well, why do you need that stability? And they kept going on and on and on. And then they eventually figured it out. It was because they needed to be able to, they had like a family member who was ill, and they needed a place for them to provide support to that family member. And there was a lot of stress around that. And they just wanted everything to just work out and everyone having all their needs met. And that was their why. That was actually their why as to why they needed to make those sales calls to make more money. It came down to this very specific reason why. And imagine if you came up against an obstacle in doing those calls. Do you think you would just give up and be like, no, I don't think today I'm going to make any more calls because something, whatever, bad happened? No, absolutely not. Your why is going to keep you right on track. And that's why it's super important to have one.
Yeah. Like, it means so much more. Like if you were just thinking, oh, I just don't want to pay more in rent, that's not really going to push you as much as like, I have a family member who like this would really benefit. Like that is a much bigger driving force when you like don't know how to do it, or when you come across obstacles, or when you have those days where you're just not feeling it. That is going to pull you back so much more than the surface level one.
Exactly. Okay, so same kind of format as before. Please take a deep breath. This can be quite overwhelming, but it can be quite expansive and empowering and fun also. But really take a deep breath. And very similar thing as before. We're wanting to get clear on your why by asking yourself why this goal matters to you specifically in this moment today. Why does this goal matter? And I want you to do that 10 times or until you get to whatever that why, that reason is. And this is a really good exercise. Like this is in the homework. But you can even do this with a friend, because sometimes it's a lot easier when you have someone asking you why or whatever the case. You can engage in that conversation and you can actually get to the root cause of why that goal matters to you. And then after that, you are going to do a similar thing as before and create a why statement in one sentence. Please not two, just one, because I want you to be stupidly concise on this. And then we're going to be putting this all together. So I don't know if you want to touch on anything.
Yeah, I like to have my why statement as like a mantra. So something that you can repeat to yourself when you're just like not really feeling it. And one of my favorite examples is because I know I have a lot of moms in here who have daughters. A lot of times they'll want to be working on their health and their relationship with their body and food and confidence and things like this, because they want to set a good example for their daughter, and they don't want their daughter growing up like the same way they did with all of the insecurities and like the hate towards their body and things like that. So their mantra would be something along the lines of like, I'm doing this for my daughter because I want to lead by example, right? And when that is the thing that you come back to instead of just like, oh man, I really just got to lose those last 10 pounds, right? That is going to really, really drive you so much more than, again, like that really surface level one, right?
Exactly. And then this is basically like where we tie it all together. So does your why support your goal? Is your why statement strong enough to support your goal? And do your values align with your goal? Is your goal supported by your values? So this is how it all really interconnects. And which is why if you only have one part of this, if you only have a goal, you're not going to get there. If you only have a why statement, you're probably not going to get there because you have no goal. So you need all of these components together, and all aligned, like all on the same page of where you want to get. And you're going to see massive, massive transformation when you have all three of these components.
So for the homework today, you're going to use everything that we taught you. You're going to use that worksheet and you're going to go through everything. So by the time you're done the worksheet, you should have, your number one value. So that's what you're going to share. Okay. You're going to share your statement. This is my value and this is what it means to me, right? You're going to share your goal that you've decided is your main focus right now and your sentence that describes that goal. And finally, you're going to share your why, your mantra for that goal. So you're going to share your 3 answers here under the post in the Facebook event. And then we're going to, go through that for you and help you get some clarification, some feedback on it. If we want you to go deeper on something that is probably likely to happen. If it's too surface level, we'll tell you to go deeper on it. And then you're going to use these to guide you for the rest of the trainings this week. So this is really just setting you up for the rest of what we're going to do. So now that you know what you're working towards and why you're working towards it, the rest of this week, we're going to be going over how you're going to make that happen and how you're going to stay on track. So this is what you're going to come back to and use as your guiding force going along.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So that is all we have for you guys for today. I know it was a bit of a long one, but don't worry, today is the longest. Just really getting you set up. Yeah, totally. The rest of the stuff will go by a bit quicker. And if you have any questions whatsoever, I'd say just leave the questions. If they relate specifically to today, you can leave them under the post. If not, you can leave them in our group chat that we have going on. And we'll be posting this, the homework, everything is all linked in the comment underneath the post. So the post for today is where everything goes for today. And that's what's going to happen all along. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, okay. We will leave it there then.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening in today. I'm so incredibly grateful that you took the time out of your day to listen and to support my podcast. If you're ready to feel the best you've ever felt, I would absolutely love to work with you. I have quite a few offers available, from nutrition audits to teaching you how to design your own workouts to group and private one-on-one coaching. Be sure to check out the link in the show notes or go to linktree/AlyDaws. So that's linktr.ee/ALYDAWS to see what I have available right now. I love chatting with you, so don't hesitate to email or reach out on Instagram if you have any questions whatsoever. Have an incredible week, my friend, and we will chat soon.